Hello everybody and welcome back to the Modern Tuba Online Course. In this video we're going to discuss the most 10 essential bass lines for any tuba player and bassist to know. That being said, please note that the following grooves are in no particular order. So let's get into it. First up on the list is an iconic bass line that I'm sure most of you know. It's a song called The Chicken. Now what a lot of people don't realize is The Chicken was not actually written by Jaco Pastorius. It was arguably made famous by Jaco Pastorius, but it's a song written by Pee Wee Ellis for James Brown. The Chicken was released in 1969 on the B-side of James Brown's album Popcorn. So if you have not heard the original of this, I encourage you to go back and listen to that recording because it is super funky and feels way different than the Jaco recording. If you haven't heard Jaco's recording, I recommend you go check that out as well because it's an iconic bass line that we should all know. So without further ado, The Chicken. Alright, now next up on the list is a standard by Herbie Hancock, released on his iconic album Headhunters in 1973. Let me give you guys a quick clue, see if you can guess it. I think most of you probably guessed it. The song is called Chameleon. I can't tell you how many times I've played this song in different ensembles in the bandstand. It's a standard, it's funky, it's great to know. So the next one on the list is off of one of my favorite albums ever. This was written by Stevie Wonder and featured on his album Songs in the Key of Life. The song I Wish was released in 1976 and features Nathan Watts on the bass. Let's check it out. Alright, now let's rewind a little bit. We're going to go back to the 60s, deep in the Motown era. The song is called Ain't No Mountain High Enough. The tune was made popular by Marvin Gaye and Tammy Terrell in 1967 and features the legendary James Jamerson on bass. Let's check it out. Alright, now the next tune up is one of my favorites. It's a super funky song. The bass player featured on this one is George Porter Jr. and I've had the distinct pleasure of watching him perform a few times live. He's a killin' bassist and this song is killin'. The song Sissy Strut was released in 1969 by the Meters. It's funky, it's groovy, let's check it out. Now let's turn it over to the king of pop himself, Michael Jackson. This next tune was written by Michael Jackson and Quincy Jones. It's a popular bass line, everybody knows it, Billie Jean. The song was released in 1982 on their iconic album Thriller and features the great Louis Johnson on bass. Here is Billie Jean. A lot of times bass players actually play this incorrectly. That first F sharp that you hear there is double stop since in octaves. Beam boom boom beam boom 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 beam boom boom beam. The reason the bass player did that is to really bring out the feel. So you hit those double octaves on each one of those. Boom 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 beam boom 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 beam boom boom beam boom 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 boom. Now as a tuba player we obviously can't play those two octaves at the same time, but we can put a little bit more weight, we can put a little bit more inflection in those notes to bring it out. Moving right along, the next song up on the list was released in 1979 by the group Chic. The song features Bernard Edward on bass, and most of you probably know it as Sugar Hill Gang's Rapper's Delight. But here's the original, Good Times. Now the next song up was actually recorded a while back by the great Canadian Brass, and Charles Dullenbuck did an awesome job on this bass line, but the bass line was originally played by Sir Paul McCartney on the song Come Together by the Beatles. Check it out. Oh, anyways, when you listen to the original of that too, check out the isolated bass track. You can really hear the tone of the instrument that we're trying to mimic on the bass and trying to mimic on the tuba. Alright, now the next one on the list, we're going to go back to some Michael Jackson, but a very younger Michael Jackson when he was a part of the Jackson 5. This song was released in 1969 on the Motown label and features the great Wilton Feder on bass. The song is I Want You Back. Now, last but not least, like I said, this list is in no particular order, but this song is one of my favorites. The bass part was played by Marcus Miller. Marcus Miller is a killing bass player. I got the opportunity to meet him in Japan a few years back, and he kills it on this bass line on Never Too Much. Never Too Much was released in 1981 by Luther Vandross, and Marcus put a little something right in the beginning of it. A little wing. That little riff in the beginning, bass players and tuba players have been copying that ever since. Wing. So here is the iconic bass line, Never Too Much. Alright folks, that does it for our top 10 iconic, essential bass lines that every tuba player or bass player should know. So what have we learned from this? Well, for one, 1969 was a great year for bass lines. Actually, 4 of the songs on that list were from that year. The Chicken, Sissy Strut, Come Together, I Want You Back, all great songs, all released in 1969. So it just goes to show you that era was killing for bass lines. At the end of the day, if you guys didn't get anything else out of this video, I encourage you to go back and play these bass lines with the original recordings. These 10 songs are literally a clinic in time, tone, groove, feel, and all of the things that we've worked so far in this course. See you guys.